Good evening. Good evening. What have I done now? I'm echoing. Hang on a minute. I don't know what I've done. Oh, God. Right. Let's just... Monitor up. That's better, my God. Sorry about that, chaps. And we will do a sound check. Just make sure everything's groovy. Should be. I've been testing it all before I come on. I'm on the ball tonight. I just have to change that over there to live chat. I don't think I'm in business. So, what kind of week have you had as we run up to the old Christmas? It's been quite chill, to be quiet. Oh, good stuff. Thanks, PY. Sound is good. All is good. I like it. So we'll see if everything works well tonight. No mistakes. But then it wouldn't be normal if I didn't cock something up, would it? Let's be honest. So tonight we're just going to do part 2 of what we did last week. Because it is rather important. People need to see exactly what they're up to. Because tonight's a little bit more interesting because specifically Protocol 15, which is all about the importance of masonry. And of course last week I presented you the 2 booklets that Masons get when they join. We went through a few parts of it. I haven't gone through it again this week at all. I haven't had time. So we'll not go through that. But obviously, if you want to see that, just go back to last week's video, anybody. And you get a bit of an intro into what the Masons get. And of course, it's all about the Supreme Being. Well, what does that mean exactly? What's the Supreme Being? Which is a Gnostic term. By the by. It is a Gnostic term. Oh, I put some good stuff up on the Facebook just very recently. It was interesting because I posted, so somebody posted on one of the groups that I follow, basically slagging us English off. It was Scott, a jock, and Aggie Squeezer, of course. And I just thought, we'll have that, because I know you Scots don't know your ass from your elbow. So I just presented something quick, just like, what about if Scotland's been running these Isles since James I? And it got a laugh. And so I went back to my Facebook feed, and on my feed had come up this amazing piece just by synchronicity. From Scottish Records, by the by. So obviously I couldn't put the whole thing up. I had to put it up in a few different comments, but then I thought I'm going to put this up on the Facebook because it's dynamite. So obviously don't do it now because I'm on. Don't be naughty. But when this is finished or you have time in the week, just check that data out. Because I've been telling you for a long time, haven't I, that these Aggie Squeezers have been controlling the British Isles since James I. And so if the Aggie Squeezers don't like it, it's your fault for not being smart enough to stop them Johnny-come-latelys that call themselves the aristocracy. But as we saw last week in the protocols, we don't have an aristocracy anymore. They're all Second Temple asswipes. All of them. They've took over the whole show. And tonight it goes in a bit more detail about how they've been feeding kings garbage forever, enough to piss all the people off so that we don't care about the kings. Also, the same with the religion, specifically the Pope, the papal system. Because I've said this before, their only opponent's communism until Vatican II was the Vatican, whether you like, or let's say the Church of Rome. Whether we like it or not, that's a fact of life. They had to take over that before they could move it globally, as they have done. So, we have to fit. We have to stick to the facts, not to what people believe, what you've been programmed to believe. You've got to face the reality. And if the facts are coming forward and you don't like it, at least have the audacity to go and check it out for yourself. Because the way that you get rid of falsity is by studying to see the facts. Sounds about right to me. Now, this week we've had some Belfast guys, or not necessarily Belfast guys, but Derry, I think, or around there. So if you're on here, Sam, your boys. Or are they? Because again, this is another issue that people need to reckon with, and that is, there were 3 guys masked making it clear. Now, the internet's gone all berserk about it's just a threat against immigrants, but No, what they were saying were, look, now, you politicians that are moving this, because they are responsible in their own little fantasy, you are now legitimate targets. They know where they live, and they know their movements. Now, the internet's gone wild about it. They've took it off my face because, of course, they all think it's a bad thing. But haven't we gone through the laws of occupation? Haven't we gone through the laws of war? Yes, we have. And what these guys have done is perfectly legal in that system. Yeah, you've got belligerent, and you've got an active sort of militia. All legal. Because the police are a militia. They're a private for-profit corporation impersonating the constabulary, which is why they wear the guns on the outside. That, again, is another part of the legality of opposing the occupation. Now, obviously, the politicals have shit themselves, which you would expect, because, of course, they've had a free reign forever. Because we are a civilized nation. When we depended on our access to law, which again is now being destroyed, according to that very strange black fella called Lammy, who wants to remove the right to trial by jury. Which, on person, they can do that because that's what they administer, and it is a fact of life that that's what they're administrating, and they can make the rules up as they wish in that realm. The problem for us is we've lost sight of that realm, and therefore don't understand that there is actually a difference between the realm and common law and the Constitution of England and this UK shit show run by Scotland. So they want independence. But it's just, I mean, again, it comes down to what I've said all along. People want to, I blame, it's all about, we are all culpable. We're all culpable because way back in the midst of time, we all thought, we don't need to care about this freedom we're called England because it's just there. We could just play out, have fun, get pissed, see how many women we can bang. And all is good, not realising that actually you're going to keep that freedom going. You've got to play a part. And again, in the second part of the protocols, they explain that is the situation, and they've abused that, or let's say manipulated it, on the back of force-feeding everybody entertainment. But even though they've force-fed you entertainment, you still had the choice. You know, you had the choice as to whether you put your entire life into football, watching other people play it. I mean, you watch them betting adverts on telly, and there's one particular, I think it's Paddy Power, and they're like, they're so in love with it. It's ridiculous. But that's true about it. You know, they're so excited about a bunch of, they're not even athletes. They're not even, it's not a sport anymore, is it? It's another corporate entity, an enterprise to entertain. And these footballers today, you know, they do exactly what they're told, and if they don't, they're going to get their bum smacked. So it's not even a sport anymore. It's a regimented cesspit of shit. You know, English play. There's very few white English players anymore. Have you noticed that? Well, of course they've stopped training everybody. This place used to be every Saturday, all weekend they were training kids and what have you. Not anymore. They're just importing them from anywhere and everywhere, and saying you're Manchester United. Blah, blah, blah. And people might say, "What, you're being racist?" No. I'm pointing at a fact here, and that's what's going on. But everybody's just, we love football. Isn't it fantastic that they can kick that ball over there like that? And that other guy can get it on his foot, and he kicks it further on, and he keeps going up that field, and wow, he goes into a net. It's amazing. Well, it's not. It's just a fucking game. Fuck's sake. Look at me, I'm swearing already. I nearly got myself excited then. I better calm down. Anyway, so that's just... But these guys, these three hooded geezers. Now, we've seen the circus, and we know, do we not, that these bumshot from the Second Temple, they will supply all the opposition. And, you know, I've dipped my toe well into the troubles in Northern Ireland. way back in the day, there were one IRA, the provisional IRA. After that, it were MI6, SAS, SBS, running it to force the government of the UK to its will and blame Republicans. And it worked. Well, because it worked, you guys out there, before you start joining this bunch, had better just double check that these guys are grassroots and not just another branch of the Second Temple asswipes offering it up for you to get yourself in a lot of trouble. I mean, because as the devil's advocate, let's say, Keir Starmer's clearly a liar. There's no two ways about it. The guy's full of shit. So, in the scheme of things, he's a legitimate target because he's undermining this nation. We know his mentor and babysitter, perhaps, with Jimmy Savile, the guy who likes to shag dead people. I wonder what they've got on Starmer that keeps him fixed to being a complete twat and appears to be enjoying it. And of course, the next one in the frame, they keep talking about Ed Miliband. I mean, that guy you don't get more Zionist than that. So, this is again, you think that these individual characters are actually the players. No, they're just the talking heads. They're just stuck there in front of a microphone on telly for you to love or despise. Because while you're doing that, you're not seeing the puppet masters. It works a treat. Or go and watch football. I mean, next couple of weeks, there's some tournament going on. Well, that's it. In the next 2 weeks, these Johnny-come-latelys can do whatever they want. Why? Because all the males will be getting super excited for whatever it is that they're putting out there now. Some crazy competition. Kicking a bag of wind around the field. It's just ridiculous that people give up their lives to stuff like that. And it's not just football. It can be anything. Alcohol. Anything. That if you're giving your big chunk of your life to it, you can't really complain when you're missing everything. You missed everything, and look what happened in 2020. That took you by surprise, didn't it? Well, it was no surprise to me. We've been watching them put this together since 90s. Especially in 2010, when they tried to get it in on the old Dicky Bird flu. It's not new to people that have been paying attention. But it was new to everybody else, and what a shock it were, and everybody believed it. It's like, well, you were too busy playing with yourself, watching football, following celebrity, or whatever you were doing, playing your computer games, you weren't paying attention because you didn't think you had to. But then people decry these idiots that are in. Well, you played a part in that. You didn't pay attention and you didn't make a noise about it. You just were busy doing nothing, basically. So these three guys, so in the system itself, what they've done, stood up and said, is legitimately legal. So whether you like it or not, it's a legal thing that they've done. So politicians can cry their eyes out all they want. Facebook can remove the post and pretend it didn't exist. It doesn't really matter. It's legal. We've been through the rules of occupation. We know it's a legal thing. It can be done. Anybody can do it. So politicians, inspectors, and the police, who are the no-hide judge slaves, are legitimate targets in that game. Legally. So they can cry all they want. It doesn't really matter. They've had free reign because they've had no comeuppance on anything. Now, I'm either way not promoting it, but I'm also not going to decry it. If men have decided that's enough, this is what we're going to do, who am I to tell them they don't have that right? Because every man has a right to the equity in his own choice under sovereign law. Now, just because the majority of people out there don't live under sovereign law because they're persons and they think they have to be told what to do and that if they can't do this and they can't do that, well, again, it's a belief. You have put yourself under as a slave to this system and said, we can't do that. You can't do that. It's not right. Well, fine. But that's only a belief system. And that's the belief system for the useless, in truth. It just is. So these guys have a right, as sovereign men, to stand up and say, look, we see what you're doing. We know that you, the politicians, are the guys that are doing this. We know that you, the guys, the politicians, want the white guys to hate the Muslims and the blacks to hate the whites, the Muslims, etc., blah, 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 blah. These guys have stood up and said, look, we know the game. We know what you're playing at. And we know that you want us to focus to that down there in bottom. Because it works, because there's a lot of people rummaging around in the sewer on one belief or another. And these guys have stood up and said, yeah, all right, lads, fair enough. You can bedazzle the minions with it all day long. You can bedazzle them with the football, Eurovision Song Contest, and why Israel shouldn't be a part of it. Well, I'll tell you why Israel shouldn't be a part of it. Because it's not a part of fucking Europe. It's not subject to the European Commission. So why is it in the Eurovision Song Contest? You don't have to get into nitty-gritty of anything else. It's not a part of Europe. Why is it in the European Eurovision Song Contest? So on that basis alone, I'd say, no, you can't. Okay? But it's another diversion. Gets people excited. Oh, well, blah, blah, blah. Slave. A slave. And these protocols that we explored last week and that we're going to go through again for part 2, which isn't quite as long, although I did pop on a bit last week as well, further shows you that they've been using these mechanics to their ends, and they've succeeded. And we are now at the point where they've succeeded. You know, we don't even have a monarch anymore here. Not even a show monarch like we had with Queen Elizabeth II, who was no monarch of England. She took the Chair of Estates, which comes under William and Mary's claim to be administering the estates of the people. We haven't had a monarch since 1649. And we haven't even had a monarch, you might say, since the Plantagenets were thrown off. Because as soon as the Tudors were put on there, you had a very strange bunch. Especially given the fact they got rid of Arthur, who, had he took the realm, may have been a bit different. Because he did have an obsession with King Arthur. And so did his father. But Henry, whatever that fat thing were, nothing to do with England, let's put it that way. So, interesting that these three guys have stood up and said that. But I just need caution to anybody that's thinking, right, let's join him. You better double check that these guys are not just another branch of the Second Temple priesthood, giving you what they think you want. And that would be my caution. Because if you're going to do things like that, you know, the amount of people out there that are just sucking up to any system, the amount of people out there that might talk brave and tough, but the minute they're under pressure from whatever it is, cry like little babies and spill the beans, like they've been doing since drugs were introduced. This is why police intelligence is now running everything. It runs crime. It runs it. And the odd guys out there that don't play along get busted because everybody's telling tales. Again, another part of this agenda as presented in these protocols, just like they did in Germany. It's the same thing. It's so same, it's quite ridiculous, to be quite honest. But if you've not studied history, you won't know this. It's fresh to you. It's brand new, and you don't know what's going on. But if you're going to do stuff like that, you would stay committed as a cell. You'd have to do stuff like that with people you trust, nobody else. You couldn't bring outsiders in, ever. You certainly couldn't blab your mouth about it. But that's what's wrong with people today. They don't know how to do that. This is what separates, in the military, those that want to be in the regiments and those guys who can work on their own. That's the separation. They're not so much supermen. They're just a little bit smarter, and fit. But that's the separation of these people. That's why they're looking for those people who they know can work on their own and they know what they're doing. Not people that are going to go, oh, you come and join my gang. Let's go start shooting people. Ooh. I mean, for God's sake, you thought before you start. Like I said, I'm not promoting this. But I'm also not decrying it. If a man wants to do that, who am I to say different? A man can't tell another man. Only persons think they can tell everybody else what to do. And this world is full of fucking persons. And that is the problem. So, interesting that that's come out this week. But then, just keep wits about your people before you start running off joining these bunch of Johnny-come-latelys. Because you don't know who they are. Because they have masks on. So double check everything. And don't forget that the entire Vatican system now is under the arm of the same. So you can't think you've got the freedom and security that you once had by operating in Roman networks that you once did, because it's full of Second Temple priests. You've really got to be careful out there about how you play these things and how you get excited, more importantly, about those that stand up and say, I am fantastic, come and join me. So just, keep your wits about your chaps and chapesses is what I would say. No, on that, let's have a look who joined us and then we'll just crack on. But it's not as long as last week's anyway, because we did most of it last week. Right, Sunday already, says Mew. I know, I can't believe it how quick this comes round. It's ridiculous, to be frank. John says, hello, mate. All right, I need to get closer. I can't see. I'm sat back in my chair like tossing. Just chilling out like. Evening, John. PY says evening. Evening, Paul. Upward says, hey, Sean and all. I hope you're all well. Welcome, John. And hope you're well too. How's the leg? John? Did I call you John? Never mind that, Neil. PY says, I'm you. Okay, June says, good evening, Sean and chat. Evening, June. Good vid coming up, says John. Upward says, Mew, Mike and I have just back from selling in Newark. We're knackered. There you go. Mew says 3 our last did this week. Okay. Kerry says, I love from Ireland. Evening to you, Sam. Right. Sounds okay, that's so we've got the sound check going on. That's good. And we're coming through loud and clear. Brilliant. Okay, where are we? Weefy Man says, evening all. Evening, Weefy Man. Moo says, don't know what you have done, Sean, but you're coming through loud and clear. I have had to turn the volume down. Well, I keep forgetting that I've got a big mixing desk here that's tied into this hardware that I've got, and I've played with it. I've been messing and playing, so I've whapped up the volumes on that as well, because I forgot actually that I could do that. So I've been paying attention a little bit today. I've been a good boy. A very good boy, actually. Right, so yeah, that's what I've done. You've just read the article on Scotland, have you, Mew? What do you think of that? Them Aggie squeezers, eh? What a bunch of Johnny-come-latelys they are. What about Abraxas, says Weefy Man. Oh, what about him? Good vid, says John. There we go. Hey, Sean and all, says Ed Freedom. Evening, Ed. Choreographed Sports Entertainment, yep. Paula Meadows says, hi Sean, good to see you over on Discord. Did you realise it was me from Set End? No, and I haven't got a clue how to use that Discord. And I have spoken to Charles the other day on the phone. So now I'm fully in tune. I understand exactly what you guys are doing. And I think it's good that you're doing it. So well done you lot. John says, Ed Miliband can't eat a burger with a straight face. Well, yeah, I wonder why. Ed says, all being compromised to be organised. Well, aren't they just? They're all puppets. Eunice gives it the plonk. Eunice, I'm sure you're a bot. Can you not say something? Paul O'Neill. Evening, Paul. It's all chicken feed. When feed the chickens, there is a frenzy till all gone. Yeah. And Big GPZ says, big love from Penzance in Cornwall. My favourite place on these isles is Cornwall. I love the place, especially Nuki and St Ives. Evening, Big GPZ. Welcome. Right. So that's the gig on the old Who's Here. Bang. So just before we go on to that. Oh, yeah. This is them guys. Ireland's new Republican movement. Well, see, you got to be careful, haven't you? You got to be careful. Just what you're dealing with here. So, there you go. And if I just, look, what have we got here? I might have to just refresh. Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a map of Putin. He's gonna hit everything. He says 23. So Blackpool's buggered. Bury-in-Furness is buggered. I'm surprised he hasn't got Blackburn. Oh, Wharton, Salisbury. Yep, he's got it as well. Oh, well, it's a bit far over to east, is that? It's a little bit closer. So I don't think Blad's maps are very good. There it is, the crown. One crown to rule them all. Give that a read, ladies and gentlemen. There you have it, from Scottish Records. The Haggy Squeezers are very naughty. Very, very, very naughty indeed. It needs to be that needs to be shown to Glasgow, because they still eat English like it's 12:42 up there. I don't know what's happened to them boys, but okay. So we went up to Protocol 10. Now what I've done, I have taken excerpts out of a translation by a guy who, I have to say, in the past has been accused of omitting certain parts. So what I have done at the bottom of this piece, I have uploaded the original English translation of these protocols that you may, if you're gonna, like I said, these are only excerpts, and believe you me, whilst these excerpts sort of give you an idea, you have to read the whole thing, because everything is covered. Everything you're witnessing, everything you've seen, everything you don't like is in these protocols. And remember, they were discovered over 100 years ago, guys. We've had 125 years to see it being implemented. And it's exactly why we are where we are today. Okay, so it says, Programme of the new Constitution. Certain details of the proposed revolution. Oh, again, just to say, each protocol, there's a preamble as to what it's discussing in the protocol. So it's Programme of the new Constitution, certain details of the proposed revolution, the Goyim, a pack of sheep, secret masonry and its shore lodges. Okay. The State Council, MERS, PCCs and stakeholder committees, I've put in brackets because that's what the State Council is, has been, as it were, the emphatic expression of the authority of the ruler. It will be, as the shore, part of the legislative corps that may be called the editorial committee of the laws and decrees of the ruler. So this is the Antichrist, for which Musk, Soros, all these billionaires are but apostles. Having established approximately the modus agendi, we will occupy ourselves with details of those combinations by which we have still to complete the revolution in the course of the machinery of state in the direction already indicated. By these combinations, I mean the freedom of the press, the right of association, freedom of conscience, the voting principle, and many other that must disappear forever from the memory of man, or undergo a radical alteration the day after the promulgation of the new Constitution. The new Constitution, ladies and gentlemen, is the Noahide law system. It is only at that moment that we shall be able at once to announce all our orders, for afterwards every noticeable alteration will be dangerous for the following reasons. If this alteration be brought in with harsh severity and in a sense of severity and limitations, it may lead to a feeling of despair caused by fear of new alterations in the same direction. So they have to do it very quietly in the background, because once you start to see how this no-hide system is going to limit you to own nothing and be happy, you're going to get pissed off. It may lead to a feeling of despair caused by fear of new alterations in the same direction. If, on the other hand, it be brought in a sense of further indulgences, it will be said that we have recognised our own wrongdoing, and this will destroy the prestige of the infallibility of authority. Or else it will be said that we have become alarmed and are compelled to show a yielding disposition, for which we shall get no thanks, because it will be supposed to be compulsory. The Goyim are a flock of sheep, and we are their wolves. And you know what happens when the wolves get hold of the flock. It is not worthwhile to say anything about how long a time they will be kept waiting for this return of their liberties, because they're not coming back, like 2020. For what purpose, then, have we invented this whole policy and insinuated it into the minds of the guys without giving them any chance to examine its underlying meaning? For what, indeed, if not in order to obtain in a roundabout way what is for our scattered tribe unattainable by the direct road? It is this which has served as the basis for our organisation of secret masonry, which is not known to, and aims which are not even so much as suspected by these Goy cattle, attracted by us into the show army of Masonic lodges in order to throw dust in the eyes of their fellows. So they know what kind of characters they're attracted into these secret societies, so therefore we can see what kind of fellows and minds are in these secret societies for all the wind and piss. They've gone out their way for a particular type of guy to excite to join these secret societies. God has granted to us, his chosen people, the gift of dispersion. That's my duck. And in this, which appears in all eyes to be our weakness, has come forth all our strength, which has now brought us to the threshold of sovereignty over all the world. Now, people will say, well, it's not them. Well, there's only one bunch that have been dispersed across the world, isn't there? So that's their own admission. You've got to read the words here, and don't for a minute think that this is a fakery or rubbish. It's been implemented in the last 125 years. Don't forget they had 2 world wars after this. You know, this was put down before they'd had 2 world wars. And before they'd installed the Federal Reserve. All the bankruptcies, etc. The pseudoscience gone berserk from the Royal Society. Psychiatry as a complete fantasy. I mean, I studied that years ago and found that it was actually introduced by the medical colleges in America. The ones that they were going to fail, were invited to spend a summer at some CIA intelligence camp where they were given LSD. And the rantings and writings from that period are what became the foundation of psychiatry. Yeah, prompted, of course, by a script pre-given. And the ramblings and musings and nonsense that came out of that session in a summertime became the foundation of psychiatry. So you've got all these nut jobs forming these ideas of breaking up the psyche of man, high as fuck, on LSD and mushrooms. And so obviously nobody else is going to be normal ever, are you not? Because, well, if you've done mushrooms, you know what I'm saying. It's not a normal state of existence. It's a different state that you put into. You can't then. It's a reference for the unseen, not the seen, if you will. And there we have psychiatry. So they're all fruit bats by default, and so they're never going to find anybody that's normal and not suffering from some psychiatric madness. And look what they've built on the back of that. The entire raft of mental health control. Sad. And a way by which they have their own operatives who were fond of stabbing people and being violent, get away with everything because they just claim mental health. That's how they keep the armies going. There now remains not much more for us to build upon the foundation we have laid. Remember, this is over 125 years ago. Not much more for us to build upon. So the main thrust of all this has already been implemented. And I would cite the Scottish takeover of England through the Civil War and before, through the introduction of the Tudors, which put the Holy See families in full control, who themselves claim origin from Persia. Protocol 12. Masonic interpretation of the word freedom. So this is the preamble. Future of the press in the Masonic kingdom. Control of the press. Correspondence agencies. What is progress as understood by Masonry? More about the press. Masonic solidarity in the press of today. The arousing of public demands in the provinces. Infallibility of the new regime. The word freedom, which can be interpreted in various ways, is defined by us as follows. Freedom is the right to do that which the law allows. This interpretation of the word, will at the proper time be of service to us, because all freedom will thus be in our hands, since the laws will abolish to create only that which is desirable for us according to the aforesaid programme. Now, the programme of Kell, remember now we know, is the no-hide system. And it's 7 laws, the 7th being the most important because, of course, that is the installation of this legal system across the world. Humans, persons, okay? Now, it's the 100 sub-laws that will determine that freedom. So if you're going to focus to the first 6, which in a sense are just a copy of some of the 10 Commandments, because, on the one hand, as we've said, we're not dealing here with those that followed the Mosaic law. We're dealing here with the priesthood that was installed in the Levant from Babylon to control the tribes that followed the Old Testament or the Tanakh. And to do so, they had a higher law in their eyes, which was the Talmud, or the oral laws, as they claim, that were given to them alone from Moses. And of course, back then in the Second Temple days, the flock didn't know this. That only exposed itself after the man came and smashed the temple to pieces. In order to try and recuperate the power over those tribes, they had to present their priesthood laws as superior to the actual Mosaic laws as laid out in the Bible. Okay, because everybody were running off to this new system, which were teaching people to follow their own internal instincts rather than following a group of Johnny-come-latelys' interpretation of what was written. So it's the no-hide laws that are the problem, and it's the 100 sub-laws that will give them all freedom in their hands. Okay. Now, the pretext for stopping any publication will be the alleged plea that it is agitating the public mind without occasion or justification. I beg you to note that among those making attacks upon us will also be organs established by us. All right, so this is why I gave a caution in relation to the 3 guys that have stood up and claimed to be in opposition. They may well be, but I don't know. I'm just telling you to be very careful, because everybody that attacks them, in most cases, are actually organs established by them. Okay, which is... Now, people will say, it's hard to tell whether somebody's shilling or not. And it is, of course, because you never know a man's capacity and his ability and his historical evidence that he's studied. But there are a few pointers to check out these people in truth, but you've got to watch them for quite a long time. And the main tenets of it are, look at what they don't talk about. Look how they react when somebody does bring what they don't talk about into the field, because they've not managed to edit it or stop them. Yeah? There's one main method by which you can look at these people. What do they not say? And universe being the universe will always shove something in the mix. They'll get through the armory, that puts the very subject that they don't want to discuss in the frame. It's the reaction, gives it all away, everything. You know, that's the main way actually to actually see through them. Then look at who's financing them, who's funding them, who's giving them the open doors. And because that is the main sort of evidence base to see that they are actually operating for a program. So yeah, it can be difficult, but not when you've been doing this a while, and not when you've applied those kind of things to certain characters that are up there claiming to be against them. Now, an interesting video that I found today and put up after I'd watched it, and it's basically what they're not saying about, what Candice Owens won't speak about Charlie Kirk. So again, that's a video I'd suggest you may watch over the week. It's very interesting, but also gives you an insight into what these protocols being implemented into religion manifests as. And it's shocking. So making tax upon us will also be organs established by us, but they will attack exclusively points that we have predetermined to alter. I think I did this one last week, but it doesn't matter. We'll do it again because it's still important. Not a single announcement will reach the public without our control. Well, I seem to be doing all right. Even now, this is already attained by us insomuch as all news items are received by a few agencies, in whose offices they are focused from all parts of the world. These agencies will then be already entirely ours and will give publicity only to what we dictate to them. But of course, this is in the days before the internet, so it's books and pamphlets, etc., etc. And then, of course, we had radio and then television. And if there should be any found who are desirous of writing against us, they will not find any person eager to print their productions. Before accepting any production for publication in print, the publisher or printer will have to apply to the authorities for permission to do so. Thus we shall know beforehand of all tricks preparing against us, and shall nullify them by getting ahead with explanations on the subject treated of. Now, this is not going to go well, is it, when you come to look to this second video? Because I'm doing it again. Oh, I never thought of that. Oh, well, never mind. Literature and journalism are two of the most important educative forces, and therefore our government will become proprietor of the majority of the journals. This will neutralise the injurious influence of the privately owned press, and will put us in possession of the tremendous influence upon the public mind. If we give permit for 10 journals, we ourselves will found 30. And so on the same proportion, this, however, must in no wise be suspected by the public, for which reason all journals published by us will be of the most opposite in appearance, tendencies and opinions, thereby creating confidence in us and bringing us over to us our quiet, unsuspicious opponents, who will thus fall into our trap and be rendered harmless. In the front rank will stand organs of an official character. They will always stand guard over our interests, and therefore their influence will comparatively insignificant. In the second rank will be the semi-official organs, whose part it will be to attract the tepid and indifferent. In the third rank we shall set up our own, to all appearance, opposition, which at least one of its organs will present what looks like the very antipodes to us. Our real opponents at heart will accept this simulated opposition as their own and will show us their cards. And that'll scare people off doing it as well, you know. In the front rank will stand organs of... Done that one. These attacks upon us will also serve another purpose, namely that our subjects will be convinced of the existence of full freedom of speech, and so give our agents on occasion to affirm that all organs which oppose us are empty babblers, since they are incapable of finding any substantial objections to our orders. So while we're doing that, just look at this for a fine example of that. Right. So I've put, is this what happens to the mind when your babysitter shags dead people? This is Starmer. Free speech has not been banned in the UK, and we will arrest anyone who says it has. Just as an example. You can't make this stuff up, can you? Right. Right, wait a minute. I'm not wrong gig here. Where the hell is it? Oh, there it is. When we are in the period of our new regime, transitional to that of our assumption of full sovereignty, must not admit any revelations by the press of any form of public dishonesty. It is necessary that the new regime should be thought to have so perfectly contented everybody that even criminality has disappeared. Cases of the manifestation of criminality should remain known only to their victims and to chance witness no more. So when people are running around expressing the criminality of Israel, it's very important because it's cancelling out their ability to come forward as the, supreme example of. If you can dig my scene, man. You know what I mean? So it's important that it's outed at every point for posterity. And again, it's I see the main role that I am carrying out is that it's just making sure certain pieces of knowledge are carried forward for future generations, because they're really going to be in a mess by the time everything, because they're all obsessed with the internet, once that's completely and fully controlled, So Protocol 13, the preamble is the need for daily bread, questions of the political, questions of industry, amusements, people's palaces, the truth is one, the great problems. The need for daily bread forces the goyim to keep silence and be our humble servants. Agents taken on to our press from among the goyim will at our orders discuss anything which is inconvenient for us to issue directly in official documents. And we, meanwhile, quietly amid the din of the discussion so raised, shall simply take and carry through such measures as we wish, and then offer them to the public as an accomplished fact. No one will dare to demand the abrogation of a matter once settled, all the more so as it will be represented as an improvement. And immediately the press will distract the current of thought towards new questions. Have we not trained people always to be seeking something new? Into the discussions of the new questions will throw themselves those of the brainless dispensers of fortunes, who are not able even now to understand what they have not the remotest conception about the matters which they undertake to discuss. Questions of the political are unattainable for any save those who have guided it already for many ages, the creators. Second Temple priesthood. From all this you will see that in securing the opinion of the mob, we are only facilitating the working of our machinery. And you may remark that it is not for actions but for words issued by us on this or that question that we seem to seek approval. We are constantly making public declaration that we are guided in all our undertakings by the hope, joined to the conviction, that we are serving the common weal. In order to distract people who may be too troublesome from discussions of questions of the political, we are now putting forward that we allege to be new questions of the political, namely questions of industry. In this sphere, let them discuss themselves silly. The masses are agreed to remain inactive, to take a rest from what they suppose to be political activity, which we train them to in order to use them as a means of combating the Goy governments. Only on condition of being found new employments in which we are prescribing them something that looks like the same political object. In order that the masses themselves may not guess what they are about, we further distract them with amusements, games, pastimes, passions, and people's palaces. Soon we shall begin through the press to propose competitions in art, in sports of all kind. These interests will finally distract their minds from questions in which we should find ourselves compelled to oppose them. So, they specifically needed to get your minds off politics, of freedom, of constitution, of all the things that they were busy undermining under Queen Elizabeth II. That's why they had to keep her up there and pretend that she was who you all believe she was. You know, that can't give you we don't need to do anything, she's sorting it out. We can play out and entertain ourselves. Growing more and more disaccustomed to reflect and form any opinions of their own, people will begin to talk in the same tone as we, because we alone shall be offering them new directions. Oh, I'm off to India. I must find myself. I need a yogi. That's family fucked. Kids are screwed. Husbands. Yeah. I'm finding myself. I need a yogi. Because we alone shall be offering them the new directions for thought, of course, through such persons as will not be suspected of solidarity with us. The part played by the liberals, utopian dreamers, will be finally played out when our government is acknowledged. Till such time they will continue to do us good service. Therefore we shall continue to direct their minds to all sorts of vain conceptions of fantastic theories. Big Bang Theory! Oh, yeah. New and apparently progressive. For have we not with complete success turned the brainless heads of the goyim with progress? Till there is not among the goyim one mind able to perceive that under this work lies a departure from truth in all cases, where it is not a question of material inventions. For truth is one, and in it there is no place for progress. Oh, a theory of evolution! Oh, from monkeys. Da, da, da. Fantastic theories. We went to the moon. No, we didn't. We're going to Mars. No, they're not. Theories. Fantastic theories. Aliens are coming. Asteroid. No, they're not. Oh, there might be a light show going on in the sky. Project Bluebeam. Fantastic theories. Fantastic science. Where did I get to then? So there is not among them the goyim one mind able to perceive that under this work lies a departure from truth in all cases, where it is not a question of material inventions. Do you get that? We're going to the moon, we invented a spaceship. We're going to Mars, we invented a spaceship. For truth is one, and in it there is no place for progress. Progress, like a fallacious idea, serves to obscure truth so that none may know it except us, the chosen of God, its guardians. My duck. When we come into our kingdom, our orators will expound great problems which have turned humanity upside down in order to bring it at the end under our beneficial rule. Who will ever suspect that all these peoples were stage managed by us according to political plan, which no one has so much as guessed at in the course of many centuries? Well, we're not in that position now. People just don't want to believe it. Protocol 14. The religion of the future, the preamble. Future conditions of serfdom, inaccessibility of knowledge regarding the religion of the future, pornography and the printed matter of the future. When we come into our kingdom, it will be undesirable for us that there should exist any other religion than ours, of the one God, with whom our destiny is bound up by our position as the chosen people of Marduk, through whom our same destiny is united with the destinies of the world, not the earth, the world. You know that gig offered to the man, just shut up and stop doing it. He said no. We must therefore sweep away all other forms of belief. Islam, take note, you're only being played for a while. If this gives birth to the atheists whom we see today, it will not, being only a transitional stage, interfere with our views. Even you atheists. But will serve as a warning for those generations which will hearken to our preaching of the religion of Moses. The oral law of Moses, of course. Which is why they need new laws. If they were really of Moses, then they would be abiding by and moving again into the mix the 10 Commandments. But it's nothing to do with Moses. It's a fantasy invented in Babylon and shoved on the Levant to control the followers of Moses. That, by its stable and thoroughly elaborated system, has brought all the peoples of this world into subjection to us. Because you believe the inner sanctum is operating in accordance with Mosaic law. Judaism, Christianity, Islam. Oh, God. Then at every possible opportunity we shall publish articles in which we shall make comparisons between our beneficent rule and those of past ages. The blessings of tranquility. Though it be a tranquility forcibly brought about by centuries of agitation, will throw into higher relief the benefits to which we shall point. The errors of the Goyim governments will be depicted by us in the most vivid hues. We shall implant such an abhorrence of them that the people would prefer tranquility in a state of serfdom to those rights of vaunted freedom, which have tortured humanity and exhausted the very sources of human existence, sources which have been exploited by a mob of rascally adventurers who know not what they do. Useless changes of forms of government to which we instigated the Goyim when we were undermining their state structures. We have so wearied the peoples by that time that they will prefer to suffer anything under us rather than run the risk of enduring again all the agitations and miseries they have gone through. Well, these agitations and miseries have gone on since they installed central banks, funny money, bankruptcy and debt, or the procurers of compound interest. That's what they do. It's what it is. Our philosophers will discuss all the shortcomings of the various beliefs of the Goyim, but no one will ever bring under discussion our faith from its true point of view, since this will be fully learned by none save ours. I'd beg to differ, you little Johnny-come-latelys. I know what you're doing, and I've been telling everybody about it for quite some time. Because you're not chosen, you've just invented it all by yourself. But there's a much higher force than you, Johnny-come-latelys, and it knows everything. So, that's not working, is it, chaps? Our philosophers will discuss... done that. Who will never dare to betray secrets. So, their own don't betray secrets. I didn't take any oaths to these Johnny-come-latelys. My bloodline is way older than these Johnny-come-latelys. The Marduk, the Noah, the Adam, the Abraham, whoever, all you lot. No. You don't have a claim on me. I'm way older than that, pal. And so, I'm not betraying your secrets. I'm just expressing to everybody what you Johnny-come-latelys are really up to and about. So, there you go. I'm nothing to do with you boys. I never were. And you've tried fucking hard. You've tried damn hard to get me to submit to your will. Didn't work. Did it? Why? Because we're not all persons. We're not all persons. In countries known as progressive and enlightened, we have created a senseless, filthy, abominable literature. Haven't they just? For some time after our entrance to power, that's theosophy, by the way. Taking a lot of knowledge and turning it into shit. And that's entranced a lot of people. Oh, I'm a magician. Look at what I can do. I'm fantastic. Well, I'm following this guy, and I have a secret, and you don't know it. That makes me better than you. It's just the kind of people they entice into these societies. For some time after our entrance to power, we shall continue to encourage its existence in order to provide a telling relief by contrast to the speeches party program which will be distributed from exalted quarters of ours. Our wise men trained to become leaders of the Goyim will come... Steimer, Trump, Putin. Our wise men trained to become leaders of the Goyim. They're just the puppets though, of course. Being told what to do by the wise men. We'll compose speeches, projects, memoirs, articles which will be used by us to influence the minds of the Goyim, directing them towards such understanding and forms of knowledge as have been determined by us. Now, Protocol 15. I know it's talked about masonry quite a bit, the front lodges. This is the most in-depth, and of course it's a big one, but I haven't copied it all. So again, if you really do want to understand this fully, then the original English translation I have put on site and offered as a link underneath this document. Okay. So Protocol 15, the preamble is one day coup d'etat, which means, and they do claim that they will bring the world under its control in one day. That's the entire world, by the way. So one day, coup d'etat, revolution over all the world. Executions, future lot of Goyim Masons. Mysticism of authority, multiplication of Masonic lodges. Central governing board of Masonic elders. And remember, this were 100 odd years ago. Okay, multiplication of Masonic lodges. The Azev tactics, Masonry as leader and guide of all secret societies. Because it's the fifth science. Significance of public applause. Collectivism, victims, execution of Masons. Fall of the prestige of laws and authority. Our position as the chosen people. Brevity and clarity of the laws of the kingdom of the future. Our position as the chosen obedience to orders, measures against abuse of authority, severity of penalties, age limit for judges, liberalism of judges and authorities, the money of all the world, absolutism of Masonry, right of appeal. There isn't any in the no-hide. Liberalism of judges and authorities. The money of all the world. Done that. Patriarchal outside appearance. So that's the front cover for you, everybody to see. Bedazzled by billionaires, remember. While you're stuck on money and mammon, you're going to be bedazzled by these fruit bats that have been told. You've told, there's a billionaire. Elon Musk's a billionaire. Bedazzled. You only love him because you think he might give you something. Oh, give me something, Elon. I'll tell everybody you're lovely and I'll believe in you because you're nice. Yep, okay. That's how easy it is. Measures against the abuse of authority, severity, blah, 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 blah. The money for absolutism of Masonry, right of appeal, patriarchal outside appearance of the power of the future ruler. So patriarchal outside appearance of the power of the future ruler. Apotheosis of the ruler. The right of the strong as the one and the only right. The King of Israel, patriarch of all the world. Now I have a piece up about, and a video about the strong man. Interesting. When we at last definitely come into our kingdom by the aid of coup d'etat, prepared everywhere for one and the same day after the worthlessness of all existing forms of government has been definitely acknowledged, and not a little time will pass before that comes about, perhaps even a whole century. Well, that's what they're doing now. They want you to hate your own government. This is what they're playing at. Yeah? I mean, even when everything's going on with the royals, it's because they want you to hate the royals. Because if you hate the royals and you hate your state, you're hating your own nation, you see. Then you're rife for this shit show. It's very clever how they do this. We shall make it our task to see that against us such things as plots shall no longer exist. With this purpose we shall slay without mercy all who take arms in hand to oppose our coming into our kingdom. Every kind of new institution of anything like a secret society will also be punished with death. Those of them which are now in existence are known to us, serve us, and have served us. We shall disband and send into exile to continents far removed from Europe. In this way we shall proceed with the Goy Masons who know too much. Such of these as we may for some reason spur will be kept in constant fear of exile. We shall promulgate a law making all former members of secret societies liable to exile from Europe as the centre of our rule. Can you see why they're all shit scared? I mean, and this has been in the past. You can say pretty clearly now, the majority of people in the Masons are that stupid, they don't even appreciate to know what really is going on. But that's a very, very telling paragraph. Wouldn't you agree? Resolutions of our government will be final without appeal. In the Goy societies in which we have planted and deeply rooted discord and Protestantism, the only possible way of restoring order is to employ merciless measures that prove the direct force of authority. No regard must be paid to the victims who fall. They suffer for the well-being of the future. Principal guarantee of stability of rule is to confirm the aureole of power, and this aureole is attained only by such a majestic inflexibility of might as shall carry on its face the emblems of inviolability from mystical causes, from the choice of God. Such was, until recent times, the Russian autocracy. So these are their enemies. The one and only serious foe we had in the world, without counting the papacy. Okay, so the Russian autocracy, without counting the papacy, were the foes. You know, you can't see that now. People, they're using that with Putin as though he's still for that. Bolshevism took care of all that from 1917, ladies and gentlemen. You've got to see that. Putin's just another branch of this shit show. Bear in mind the example when Italy, drenched with blood, never touched a hair of the head of Sulla, who had poured forth that blood. Sulla enjoyed an apotheosis for his might in the eyes of the people, though they had been torn in pieces by him, but his intrepid return to Italy ringed him round with inviolability. The people did not lay a finger on him, who hypnotizes them by his daring and strength of mind. A bit like Trump. Meantime, however, until we come into our kingdom, we shall act in the contrary way. We shall create and multiply Freemasonic lodges in all the countries of the world, absorb them all who may become or who are prominent in public activity, for in these lodges we shall find our principal intelligence offices and means of influence. All these lodges we shall bring under one central administration, known to us alone and to all others absolutely unknown, which will be composed of our learned elders. Now, that would be cited today as the Grand Orient Lodge. In these lodges we shall tie together the knot which binds together all revolutionary and liberal elements. Their composition will be made up of a strata of society that most secret political plots will be known to us and will fall under our guiding hands on the very day of their conception. Among the members of these lodges will be almost all the agents of international and national police, since their service is for us irreplaceable in the respect that the police is in a position not only to use its own particular measures with the insubordinate, but also to screen our activities and provide pretexts for discontents, etc. The class of people who most willingly enter into secret societies are those who live by their wits, careerists, and in general people most light-minded, think that, with whom we shall have no difficulty in dealing and in using to wind up the mechanism of the machine devised by us. If this world grows agitated, the meaning of what will be that we have had to stir up in order to break up its too great solidarity. But if there should arise in its midst a plot, then at the head of the plot will be no other than one of our most trusted servants. It is natural that we and no other should lead Masonic activities, for we know whither we are leading. We know the final goal of every form of activity, whereas the Goyim have knowledge of nothing, not even of the immediate effect of action. They put before themselves, usually, the momentary reckoning of the satisfaction of their self-opinion in the accomplishment of their thought, without even remarking that the very conception never belonged to their initiative, but to our instigation of their thought. The Goyim enter the lodges out of curiosity or in the hope by their means to get a nibble at the public pie, and some of them in order to obtain a hearing before the public for their impracticable and groundless fantasies. They thirst for the emotion of success and applause, of which we are remarkably generous. And the reason why, Tommy Robinson. Is he banging Oliver Lance? And the reason why we give them this success is to make use of the high conceit of themselves to which it gives birth. For that insensibility disposes them to assimilate our suggestions without being on their guard against them in the fullness of their confidence, that it is their own infallibility which is giving utterance to their own thoughts, and that it is impossible for them to borrow those of others. You cannot imagine to what extent the wisest of the Goyim can be brought to a state of unconscious naivete in the presence of this condition of high conceit of themselves. Now, Abe Finkelstein touched on this did he not? Again, Abe Finkelstein is definitely an interview to watch, to look at. What am I doing here? I had another part to say. Anyway, never mind. So, Abe Finkelstein, once again. Where are we? I've got lost there. Oh, yeah. In high conceit of themselves. And at the same time, how easy it is to take the heart out of them by the slightest ill success, though it be nothing more than the stoppage of the applause that they had, and to reduce them to a slavish submission for the sake of winning of renewal of success. By so much as I would disregard success, if only they can carry through their plans. By so much the goyim are willing to sacrifice any plans only to have successes. This psychology of theirs materially facilitates for us the task of setting them in the required direction. These tigers in appearance of the souls of sheep, and the wind blows freely through their heads. Now, that's what I was going to say. Abe Finkelstein, when he was talking to his opponent on that interview, did say we do respect the fact that you're not selling out your own people and that you're acting for them. Because they do. You know, they're there as the test of man, if you might say. You know, they're there to test man. Because man is no longer man. He's become a fucking monkey. You know? Or not a monkey so much, a chimp. Because they are the lowest of those sorts of animals. They're quite evil little things, really, aren't they? Quite. And so Abe Finkelstein respected his opponent for not laying down. Yeah. So you've got to see it from their point of view. I'm not saying you have to accept what they do, but they are here to test. And they do not... when you think you're in and you're getting your pets mean prizes, he's telling you here, they're telling you that they despise you. Because what they're seeing in you is your weakness that they're using to their advantage. They don't respect you. They don't like you. They don't care for you. They despise the fact that you're a weak, pathetic human. And therefore, everything they're doing to you, you deserve. You want it. You will it. Because you're a wanker of the utmost fucking order. Yeah? This psychology of theirs materially facilitates for us the task of setting them in the required direction. These tigers in appearance of the souls of sheep, and the wind blows freely through their heads. We have set them on the hobby horse of an idea about the absorption of individuality by the symbolic unit of collectivism. They have never yet, and they never will, have the sense to reflect that this hobby horse is a manifest violation of the most important law of nature, which is established from the very creation of the world, one unit unlike another, and precisely for the purpose of instituting individuality. That's right against the Genesis 1. So people claim sovereignty, but they don't act it because they don't really want it. They're just full of shit. Yeah, it's a soundbite they like to run on, but they're not actually claiming sovereignty at all. If we have been able to bring them to such a pitch of stupid blindness, it is not a proof, and an amazingly clear proof. Is it not a proof and an amazingly clear proof of the degree to which the mind of the Goyim is undeveloped in comparison with our mind? This it is, mainly, which guarantees our successes. We have not counted the victims of the seed of the Goy cattle, though we have sacrificed many of our own. But for that we have now already given them such a position on the earth as they could not even have dreamed of. The comparatively small number of the victims from the number of ours have preserved our nationality from destruction. Yeah, so when they're talking about everything that went on in the Second World War, you were just sacrificed by your own. But they're not your own, are they? It's a different bunch coming out of Babylon that have had control of you for a very long time. You nearly saw the light, and then you went back to darkness. This separation of the Almighty Creating Father. Death is the inevitable end for all. It is better to bring that end nearer to those who hinder our affairs than to ourselves, to the founders of this affair. We execute Masons in such wise that none save the Brotherhood can ever have a suspicion of it. Not even the victims themselves of our death sentence. They all die when required, as if from a normal kind of illness. I told you, when they said they'll look after you for the rest of your life, what they didn't tell you is that they're now in full control of when that be. Normal kind of illness. It's a trap. Knowing this, even the Brotherhood, in its turn, dare not protest. By such methods, we have plucked out of the midst of the Masonry the very root of protest against our disposition. While preaching liberalism to the Goyim, we at the same time keep our own people and our agents in a state of unquestioning submission. Now, I have a piece up there about the Duke of Brunswick in the 1700s claiming that a Sun culture took over Freemasonry and it should be disbanded. I'll put that up as a link under this video. Under our influence, the execution of the laws of the Goyim has been reduced to a minimum. The prestige of the law has been exploded by the liberal interpretations introduced into this sphere. In the most important and fundamental affairs and questions, judges decide as we dictate to them. See matters in the light wherewith we enfold them for the administration of the Goyim. Of course, through persons who are our tools, though we do not appear to have anything in common with them, by newspaper opinion or by other means. Even senators and the higher administration accepts our counsels. The purely brute mind of the Goyim is incapable of use for analysis and observation, and still more for the foreseeing whither a certain manner of setting a question may tend. In this difference in capacity for thought between the Goyim and ourselves may be clearly discerned the seal of our position in the chosen people and of our higher quality of humanness. In contradistinction to the brute mind of the Goyim, their eyes are open but see nothing before them and do not invent, unless perhaps material things. From this is it plain that nature herself has destined us to guide and rule the world. When comes the time of our overt rule, the time to manifest its blessings, we shall remake all its legislatures. All our laws will be brief, plain, stable, without any kind of interpretations, so that anyone will be in a position to know them perfectly. The main feature which will run right through them is submission to orders, and this principle will be carried to a grandiose height. Concealment of guilt, connivance between those in the service of the administration, all this kind of evil will disappear. After the very first examples of severe punishment, the aureole of our power demands suitable, that is, cruel punishments for the slightest infringement, for the sake of gain of its supreme prestige. The sufferer, though his punishment may exceed his fault, will count as a soldier falling on the administrative field of battle in the interest of authority, principle, and law, which do not permit that any of those who hold the reins of the public courts should turn aside from the public highway to their own private paths. For example, our judges will know that whenever they feel disposed to plume themselves on foolish clemency, they are violating the law of justice, which is instituted for the exemplary edification of men by penalties for lapses, and do not for display of the spiritual qualities of the judge. Such qualities it is proper to show in private life, but not in a public square, which is the educationary basis of human life. Our legal staff will serve not beyond the age of 55, firstly because old men more obstinately hold to prejudiced opinions and are less capable of submitting to new directions, and secondly because this will give us the possibility by the measure of securing elasticity in the changing of staff, which will thus the more easily bend under our pressure. He who wishes to keep his place will have to go give blind obedience to deserve it. In general, our judges will be elected by us only from among those who thoroughly understand that the part they have to play is to punish and apply laws, and not to dream about the manifestations of liberalism at the expense of the educational scheme of the state, as the Goyim in these days imagine it to be. This method of shuffling the staff will serve also to explode any collective solidarity of those in the same service and will bind all to those interests of the government upon which their fate will depend. The young generation of judges will be trained in certain views regarding the inadmissibility of any abuses that might disturb the established order of our subjects among themselves. In these days, the judges of the Goyim create indulgences to every kind of crimes, not having just understanding their office. Because the rulers of the present age in appointing judges to office take no care to inculcate in them a sense of duty and consciousness of the matter which is demanded of them. As a brute beast lets out its young in search of prey, so do the Goyim give their subjects places of profit, without thinking to make clear to them for what purpose such place was created. This is the reason why their governments are being ruined by their own forces through the acts of their own administration. We are obliged without hesitation to sacrifice individuals who commit a breach of established order, for in the exemplary punishment of evil lies a great educational problem. When the King of Israel sets upon his sacred head the crown offered him by Europe, so that's that Ursula who follows the Talmud, so I'll give you that again. When the King of Israel sets upon his sacred head the crown offered him by Europe, he will become patriarch of the world. The indispensable victims offered by him in consequence of their suitability will never reach the number of victims offered in the course of centuries by the mania of magnificence, the emulation between the Goy governments. Our king will be in constant communion with the peoples, making to them from the tribune speeches with which fame will in the same hour distribute all over the world. Protocol 16. Emasculation of the universities, this is preamble, substitute for classicism, training and calling, advertisement of the authority of the ruler in the schools. So they're advertising this guy in the schools. Who did they put up there on eyes? Prince William. Abolition of freedom of instruction. New theories, independence of thought, teaching by object lessons. In order to effect the destruction of all collective forces except ours, we shall emasculate the first stage of collectivism. The universities by re-educating them in a new direction. Their officials and professors will be prepared for their business by detailed secret programs of action from which they will not with immunity diverge, not by one iota. They will be appointed with a special precaution and will be so placed as to be wholly dependent upon the government. There's your Rockefeller Foundation. Yep, there's your Carnegie Libraries. We shall exclude from the course of instruction state law, as also all that concerns the political question. These subjects will be taught to a few dozens of persons chosen for their preeminent capacities from among the number of the initiated. The universities must no longer sound out from their halls milksops, concocting plan for a constitution, like a comedy or tragedy, busying themselves with questions of policy in which even their own fathers never had any power of thought. The ill-guided acquaintances of large number of persons with questions of polity creates utopian dreamers and bad subjects. As you can see for yourselves from the example of the universal education in this direction of the Goyim, we must introduce into their education all those principles which have so brilliantly broken up their order. But when we are in power, we shall remove every kind of disturbing subject from the course of education, and shall make out of the youth obedient children of authority, loving him who rose as the support and hope of peace and quiet. And that was tested in the Third Reich education of the children from 1923, using the Froebel education method. I have a piece up on the site. Tavistock formed it in London. Classicism is also any form of study of ancient history in which there are more bad than good examples. We shall replace with the study of the programme of the future. We shall erase from the memory of men all facts of previous centuries which are undesirable to us, and leave only those which depict all the errors of the governments of the Goyim. We shall abolish every kind of freedom of instruction. Learners of all ages will have the right to assemble together with their parents in the educational establishments, as it were in a club. See, look, the legal framework, the Seventh Noahide Law, persons, parents, it's all this legal shit show. That is the system. We shall swallow up and confiscate to our own use the last scintilla of independence of thought, which we have long past been directing towards subjects and ideas useful for us. Protocol 17. Preamble. Advocacy, influence of the priesthood of the Goyim, freedom of conscience, papal court, king of the Jews as patriarch pope. How to fight the existing church. Function of contemporary press. Organisation of police, volunteer police, espionage on the pattern of the cabal espionage, abuses of authority. Volunteer police, of course, are all your little grass arse wipes. Everywhere. Telling tales, curtain waggling. Yep. Okay. The practice of advocacy produces men, cold, cruel, persistent, unprincipled, who in all cases take up an impersonal, purely legal standpoint. They have the inveterate habit to refer everything to its value for the defence, not to the public welfare of its results. They do not usually decline to undertake any defence whatever. They strive for an acquittal at all costs, cavilling over every petty crux of jurisprudence, and thereby they demoralise justice. For this reason, we shall set this profession into narrow frames which will keep it inside the sphere of executive public service. Advocates, equally with judges, will be deprived of the right of communication with litigants. They will receive business only from the court and will study it by notes off reports and documents, defending their clients after they have been interrogated in court on facts that they have appeared. They will receive an honorarium without regard to the quality of the defence. This will render them mere reporters in law business in the interests of justice, and as counterpose to the proctor or prosecutor, who will be the reporter in the interests of the prosecution. This will shorten business before the courts. In this way, so now you can see why they're starting to dismantle the British English trial by jury. Yeah. This will render them mere reporters. Yeah, blah 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 blah. In this way will be established a practice of honest, unprejudiced defence conducted not from personal interest but by conviction. This will also, by the way, remove the present practice of corrupt bargain between advocates to agree only to let that side win which pays most. We have long past taken care to discredit the priesthood of the Goyim and thereby to ruin their mission on earth, which in these days might still be a great hindrance to us. Day by day, its influence of the people of the world is falling lower. Freedom of conscience has been declared everywhere, so that now only years divide us from the moment of the complete wrecking of that Christian religion. As to other religions, we shall have still less difficulty. Islam, you listening? The piece of piss destroy you, because they control you completely. But it would be premature to speak of this now. We shall set clericalism and clericals into such narrow frames as to make their influence move into retrogressive proportions to its former progress. So, of course, putting women in church, gays in church, is another method by which the actual theology itself has been completely demolished. So they're in there. It's Vatican II. So Protestantism, as they say in there, once they got hold of Vatican II, they got full control of the church as well. When the time comes finally to destroy the papal court, the finger of an invisible hand will point the nations toward this court. When, however, the nations fling themselves upon it, we shall come forward in the guise of its defenders, as if to save excessive bloodshed. By this diversion we shall penetrate to its very bowels, and be sure we shall never come out again until we have gnawed through the entire strength of this palace. There, Malachi Martin comes into play. Okay? Jesuits. So, once the Jesuits had been kicked out, came under the influence of Catherine the Great and the Prussians, everything they did from that point was to exactly carry out that paragraph. I'll read that again. When the time comes finally to destroy the papal court, the finger of the invisible hand will point the nations towards this court. When, however, the nations fling themselves upon it, we shall come forward in the guise of its defenders, as if to save excessive bloodshed. Yeah, the new form of Jesuits was that very force, I would suggest. By this diversion we shall penetrate to its very bowels, and be sure we shall never come out again until we have gnawed through the entire strength of this place. The King of the Jews will be the real Pope of the universe, the patriarch of an international church. And of course, that's set up and operating in Kazakhstan. But in the meantime, while we are re-educating youth in new traditional religions and afterwards in ours, we shall not overtly lay a finger on existing churches, but we shall fight against them by criticism calculated to produce schism. Our kingdom will be an apologia of the divinity Vishnu, in whom is found its personification. In our 100 hands will be, one in each, the springs of the machinery of social life. We shall see everything without the aid of the official police, which in that scope of its rights, which we elaborated for the use of the Goyim, hinders governments from seeing. In our programme, 1/3 of our subjects will keep the rest under observation from a sense of duty, on the principle of volunteer service to the state. And the most proficient generations for that would be baby boomers and Generation X. Crazy, isn't it? It will then be no disgrace to be a spy and an informer, but a merit unfounded denunciations, however, will be cruelly punished, that there may be no development of abuses of this right. If you only realise what you've been coaxed into. Our agents will be taken from the higher as well as the lower ranks of society, from among the administrative class who spend their time in amusements, editors, printers and publishers, booksellers, clerks and salesmen, workmen, coachmen, lackeys, etc. This body having no rights and not being empowered to take any action on their own account, and consequently a police without any power, will only witness and report. Verification of their reports and arrests will depend upon a responsible group of controllers of police affairs, PCCs, MERS, while the actual act of arrest will be performed by the gendarmerie and the municipal police. Any person not denouncing anything seen or heard concerning questions of polity will also be charged with this and made responsible for concealment. We've got that going on. If it be proved that he is guilty of this crime. Just as nowadays our brethren are obliged at their own risk to denounce to the cabal apostates of their own family or members who have been noticed doing anything in opposition to the cabal, so in our kingdom all over the world it will be obligatory for all our subjects to observe the duty of service to the state in this direction. And that's exactly what took place in the Soviet Union. 18. Preamble. Measures of secret defence, observation of conspiracies from the inside, overt secret defence, the ruin of authority, secret defence of the King of the Jews, mystical prestige of authority, arrest on the first suspicion. When it becomes necessary for us to strengthen the strict measures of secret defence, the most fatal poison for the prestige of authority, we shall arrange a simulation of disorders or some manifestation of discontents, finding expression through the cooperation of good speakers. Round these speakers will assemble all who are sympathetic to his utterances. This will give us the pretext for domiciliary perquisitions and surveillance on the part of our servants from among the number of the Goyim police inspectors. You are aware that we have broken the prestige of the Goy kings by frequent attempts upon their lives through our agents. Blind sheep of our flock, who are easily moved by a few liberal phrases to crimes provided only they be painted in political colours. Our ruler will be secretly protected only by the most insignificant guard, because we shall not admit so much as a thought that there could exist against him any sedition with which he is not strong enough to contend and is compelled to hide from it. So this new guy is not going to have a big show of protection, so you don't think he's vulnerable. If we should admit this thought, as the Goyim have done and are doing, we should ipso facto be signing a death sentence, if not for our ruler, at any rate for his dynasty, at no distant date. Exalike, because King David comes in here. It's the Exalike, I'm telling you, Dangor. According to strictly enforced outward appearance, our ruler will employ his power only for the advantage of the nation, and in no wise for his own or dynastic profits. Therefore, with the observance of this decorum, his authority will be respected and guarded by the subjects themselves. Criminals with us will be arrested at the first or more or less well-grounded suspicion. It cannot be allowed that out of fear of a possible mistake, an opportunity should be given of escape to persons suspected of political lapse or crime. For in these matters we shall be literally merciless. 19. The right of presenting petitions and projects, this is the preamble, sedition, indictment of political crimes, advertisement of political crimes. If we do not permit any independent dabbling in the political, we shall on the other hand encourage every kind of report or petition, with proposals for the government to examine into all kinds of projects for the amelioration of the condition of the people. This will reveal to us the defects or else the fantasies of our subjects, to which we shall respond either by accomplishing them or by a wise rebutment to prove the short-sightedness of one who judges wrongly. In order to destroy the prestige of heroism for political crime, we shall send it for trial in the category of thieving, murder, and every kind of abominable and filthy crime. Public opinion will then confuse in its conception this category of crime with the disgrace attaching to every other, and will brand it with the same contempt. We have done our best, and I hope we have succeeded to obtain that the Goyim should not arrive at this mean of contending with sedition. It was for this reason that through the press and in speeches indirectly, in cleverly compiled schoolbooks on history, we have advertised the martyrdom alleged to have been accepted by sedition mongers for the idea of the common weal. This advertisement has increased the contingent of liberals and has brought thousands of Goyim into the ranks of our livestock cattle. 20. Final programme. Progressive tax. Stamp, this is preamble. Stamp progressive taxation, exchequer interest-bearing papers and stagnation of currency. Method of accounting, abolition of ceremonial displays, stagnation of capital, currency issue, gold standard, standard of cost of working manpower, budget, state loans, 1% interest series, industrial shares, rulers of the Goyim, courtiers and favouritism, Masonic agents. When we have come into our kingdom, our autocratic government will avoid, from a principle of self-preservation, sensibly burdening the masses of the people with taxes, remembering that it plays the part of a father and protector. But as state organisation costs dear, it is necessary nevertheless to obtain the funds required for it. Our rule, in which the king will enjoy the legal fiction that everything in his state belongs to him, which may easily be translated into fact, will be enabled to resort to the lawful confiscation of all sums of every kind for the regulation of their circulation in the state. From this follows the taxation will best be covered by a progressive tax on property. Our rule, in which the king will enjoy the legal fiction that everything in the state belongs to him, which may easily be translated into fact, will be enabled to resort to the lawful... I've done that. Hang on a minute. Progressive tax on property. In this manner, the dues will be paid without straightening or ruining anybody in the form of a percentage of the amount of property. The rich must be aware that it is their duty to place a part of their superfluities at the disposal of the state, since the state guarantees them security of possession of the rest of their property and the right of honest gains. I say honest, for the control over property will do away with robbery on a legal basis. The social reform must come from above, for the time is right for it. It is indispensable as a pledge of peace. The tax upon the poor man is the seed of revolution and works to the detriment of the state, which in hunting after the trifling is missing the big. Quite apart from this, a tax on capitalists diminishes the growth of wealth in private hands, in which we have in these days concentrated as a counterpoise to the government strength of the Goyim, their state finances. The force upon which our king will rest consists of the equilibrium of the guarantee of peace, for the sake of which things it is indispensable that the capitalists should yield upon a portion of their incomes for the sake of the secure working of the machinery of the state. Well, Trump's the big on peace, isn't he? State needs must be paid by those who will not feel the burden and have enough to take from. Such a measure will destroy the hatred of the poor man for the rich, in whom he will see as a necessary financial support for the state. Well, they've already got there, haven't they? Everybody loving the billionaires. Will see in him an organiser of peace and well-being, since he will see that it is a rich man who is paying the necessary means to attain these things. Purchase, receipt of money or inheritance will be subject to the payment of a stamped progressive tax. Any transfer of property, whether money or other, without evidence of payment of this tax, which will be strictly registered by names, will render the former holder liable to pay interest on the tax from the moment of transfer of these sums up to the discovery of his evasion of declaration of transfer. The one and only person who will have no interest in robbing the state is its owner, the ruler. Economic crises have been produced by us from the Goyim by no other means than the withdrawal of money from circulation. The issue of money ought to correspond with the growth of population, and thereby children also must absolutely be reckoned as consumers of currency from the day of their birth. The revision of issue is a material question for the whole world. Well, look, remember, this is before they did all the fancy stuff. You know, with the person, with the birth certificates and such. What also indeed is, in substance, a loan, especially a foreign loan. A loan is an issue of government bills of exchange containing a percentage obligation commensurate to the sum of the loan capital. If the loan bears a charge of 5%, then in 20 years the state vainly pays away in interest a sum equal to the loan borrowed. In 40 years it is paying a double sum, in 60 treble, and all the while the debt remains unpaid. That's compound interest, ladies and gentlemen, okay? And that's your Bank for International Settlements. Yeah? IMF, World Bank, okay? That's the system that's playing that. So long as loans were internal, the Goyim only shuffled money from the pockets of the poor to those of the rich. But when we bought up the necessary person in order to transfer loans into the external sphere, all the wealth of states flowed into our cash boxes, and all the Goyim began to pay us the tribute of subjects. If the superficiality of Goy kings on their thrones in regard to state affairs, and the venality of ministers, or the want of understanding of financial matters on the part of other ruling persons, have made their countries debtors to our treasuries, to amounts quite impossible to pay, it has not been accomplished without, on our part, heavy expenditure of trouble and money. The Goy rulers, whom we once upon a time advised should be distracted from state occupations by representatives' receptions, observances of etiquette, entertainments, were only screens for our rule. The accounts of favourite courtiers who replaced them in the sphere of affairs were drawn up for them by our agents, and every time gave satisfaction to short-sighted minds by promises that in the future economies and improvements were foreseen. 21. Preamble. Internal loans, debit and taxes, conversions, bankruptcy, savings banks and rents, abolition of money markets, regulation of industrial values. To what I reported to you at the last meeting, I shall now add a detailed explanation of internal loans. Of foreign loans I shall say nothing more, because they have fed us with the national monies of the Goyim. But for our state, there will be no more foreigners. That is, nothing external. We have taken advantage of the venality of the administrators and the slackness of the rulers to get our monies twice, thrice, and more times over, but double dipping, by lending to the Goy governments monies which were not at all needed by the states. Could anyone do the like in regard to us? State announces that such a loan is to be concluded and open subscriptions for their own bills of exchange, that is, for their interest-bearing paper, that they may be within the reach of all. The price is determined at from 100 to 1,000, and a discount is made for the earliest subscribers. Next day, by artificial means, the price of them goes up, the alleged reason being that everyone is rushing to buy them. In a few days, the treasury safes are, as they say, overflowing, and there's more money than they can do with. Why then take it? The subscription, it is alleged, covers many times over the issue total of the loan. In this lies the whole stage effect. Look you, they say, what confidence is shown in the government's bills of exchange. And that is exceptionally clever. I mean, but it's because people just don't understand finance. And I'm not saying that I do, but I do have a better grip on it, I think, than some. But when the comedy is played out, there emerges the fact that the debit and the exceedingly burdensome debit has been created. I think it's debt, that. For the payment of interest, it becomes necessary to have recourse to new loans, which do not swallow up but only add to the capital debt. And when this credit is exhausted, it becomes necessary by new taxes to cover not the loan but only the interest on it. These taxes are a debit employed to cover a debit. Now, a debt. This is compound interest, okay? The UK government is in debt to these people. We are not, but we are because we come forward as persons. Yeah, that's the only tie we have to this system. This is why they come to us for the money. The government's in debt. It's bankrupt or in administration. It's taking off us, but first it had to create a legal title, or the ens legis, and then shove it on us, which they then administer. You know, is it really starting to make sense how what we've been talking about all these times is a plan? Yeah? It's the 7th law of the no-hide system. Later comes the time for conversions, but they diminish the payment of interest without covering the debt. And besides, they cannot be made without the consent of the lenders. On announcing a conversion, a proposal is made to return the money to those who are not willing to convert their paper. If everybody expressed his unwillingness and demanded his money back, the government would be hooked on their own flies and would be found insolvent and unable to pay the proposed sums. Nowadays, with external loans, these tricks cannot be played by the goyim, for they know that we shall demand all our monies back. In this way, an acknowledged bankruptcy will best prove to the various countries the absence of any means between the interests of the people and of those who rule them. Yeah? Did you get that? We shall replace the money markets with grandiose governments' credit institutions, the object of which will be to fix the price of industrial values in accordance with government views. These institutions will be in a position to fling open the market 500 millions of industrial paper in one day, or to buy up for the same amount. In this way, all industrial undertakings will come into dependence on us. You may imagine for yourselves what immense power we shall thereby secure for ourselves. Yeah, and they moved it all to China. 22. Preamble. The secret of what is coming. The evil of many centuries is the foundation of future well-being. The aureole of power and its mystical worship. We're nearly done. There's only 24. In our hands is the greatest power of our day, gold. In 2 days we can procure from our storehouses any quantity we may please. Surely there is no need to seek further proof that our rule is predestined by God. Surely we shall not fail with such wealth to prove that all the evil which for so many centuries we have had to commit has served at the end of ends to cause of true well-being, the bringing of everything into order. Though it be even by the exercise of some violence, yet all the same it will be established. They've admitted there that they're evil. Surely there is no need to seek further proof that our rule is predestined by God. Okay, I've done that, sorry. We shall contrive to prove that we are benefactors, who have restored to the rend and mangled earth to true good and also freedom of person. This is why they're wrecking the earth, so they can come back and say, look, we've saved it. They're doing it. They're spraying. They're killing the crops. They're poisoning everything. They're poisoning the water. They're doing it. So that they can say it's predestined by God because, look, we can stop it. It's fucking blag of all blags, man. It's like, it makes the Godfather look like it makes it look like a bloody homeless. Oh, but it's there. They're admitting that it's all a big fantasy. It's quite ridiculous, really. I mean, they must have a laugh between themselves. They must sit there and laugh their tits off. Ah, dear. Where are we now? And herewith we shall enable it to be enjoyed in peace and quiet with proper dignity of relations. on the condition, of course, of strict observance of the laws established by us. We shall make plain therewith that freedom does not consist in dissipation, and in the right of unbridled license, any more than the dignity and force of man do not consist in the right for everyone to promulgate destructive principles in the nature of freedom of conscience, equality and the like, that freedom of the person in no wise consists in the right to agitate oneself and others by abominable speeches before disorderly mobs, and that true freedom consists in the inviolability of the person who honourably and strictly observes all the laws of life in common, that human dignity is wrapped up in consciousness of the rights and also of the absence of rights of each, and not wholly and solely in fantastic imaginings about the subject of one's ego. Our authority will be glorious because it will be all-powerful, will rule and guide and not muddle along after leaders and orators shrieking themselves hoarse with senseless words which they call great principles, and which are nothing else, to speak honestly, but utopian. Our authority will be the crown of order, and in that is included the whole happiness of man. The aureole of this authority will inspire a mystical bowing of the knee before it, and a reverent fear before it of all the peoples. True force makes no terms with any right, not even with that of God. None dare come near to it, so as to take so much as a span from it away. 23. Reduction of the manufacture of articles of luxury. Small master production, that's China. Making shit. Unemployment, prohibition of drunkenness, killing out of the old society and its resurrection in a new form, the chosen one of God. That the peoples may become accustomed to obedience, it is necessary to inculcate lessons of humility and therefore to reduce the production of articles of luxury. By this we shall improve morals which have been debased by emulation in the sphere of luxury. We shall re-establish small master production, which will mean laying a mine under the private capital of manufacturers. Subjects, I repeat once more, give blind obedience only to the strong hand which is absolutely independent of them, for in it they feel the sword for defence and support against social scourges. What do we want with an angelic spirit in a king? What they have to see in him is the personification of force and power. Drunkenness also will be prohibited by law and punishable as a crime against the humaneness of man, who is in turn into a brute under the influence of alcohol. And, of course, they're using Islam for that. You're just a fucking puppet force, Islam. You know, surely you've got a mind for your own. Wake up, guys. You're being played left, right, and centre here. The Supreme Lord, who will replace all now existing rulers, dragging on their resistance among societies, demoralised by us, societies that have denied even the authority of God, from whose midst breaks out on all sides the fire of anarchy, must first of all proceed to quench this all-devouring flame. Therefore he will be obliged to kill off those existing societies, though he should drench them with his own blood, that he may resurrect them again in the form of regularly organised troops fighting consciously with every kind of infection that may cover the body of the state with sores. This chosen one of God is chosen from above to demolish the senseless forces moved by instinct and not reason, by brutishness and not humaneness. These forces now try. When they say humaneness, they're talking about the rights of person. You think it means good stuff. It doesn't. It's the rights of person. These forces now triumph in manifestations of robbery and every kind of violence under the mask of principles of freedom and rights. They have overthrown all forms of social order to erect on the ruins of the throne of the King of the Jews. But their part will be played out in the moment he enters into his kingdom. Then it will be necessary to sweep them away from his path, on which must be left no knot, no splinter. Then will it be possible for us to say to the peoples of the world, give thanks to God and bow the knee before him, who bears on his front the seal of the predestination of man, to which God himself has led his star, that none other than him might befree us from all the before-mentioned forces of evils. And of course that star is the star of Remphan. And the final protocol, confirming the roots of King David, training of the king, setting aside of directors, the king of three of his sponsors, the king is fate, inapproachability of exterior morality, and the king of the Jews. Now, at the conference, my speech made it pretty clear that King David was a pharaoh. Solomon was a pharaoh. So too was Moses. Okay. So Sean, I forgot his name. Guy in Europe that's on Sean Ross. He's quite correct in saying that this system is a pharaonic system, but not the original Chem, this shit show. Okay. But I think actually what has happened is they've stolen these characters, and when they were forming the Mishnah and the Zohar and the Kabbalah to their own shit show. Yeah, you get my drift. I pass now to the method of confirming the dynastic roots of King David to the last strata of the earth. This confirmation will first and foremost be included in that which to this day has rested the force of conservatism by our learned elders of the conduct of all the affairs of the world, in the directing of the education of thought of all humanity. Certain members of the seed of David will prepare the kings and their heirs, selected not by right of heritage but by eminent capacities, meaning do as you're fucking told, inducting them into the most secret mysteries of the political into schemes of government, but providing always that none may come to knowledge of the secrets. The object of this mode of action is that all may know that government cannot be entrusted to those who have not been inducted into the secret places of its art. To these persons only will be taught the practical application of the aforenamed plans by comparison of the experiences of many centuries. All the observations of the politico-economic moves and social sciences, in a word, all the spirit of laws which have been unshakably established by nature herself for the regulation of the relations of humanity. Directors will often be set aside from ascending the throne if in their time of training they exhibit frivolity, softness and other qualities that are the ruin of authority, which render them incapable of governing and in themselves dangerous for kingly office. Only those who are unconditionally capable for firm, even if to be cruelty, direct rule will receive the reins of rule from our learned elders. In case of falling sick with weakness or will or other form of incapacity, kings must by law hand over the reins of rule to new and capable hands. Well, we have had a lot of abdications, have we not, across Europe in the last 10 years. So these offspring that have come in are fully trained to be bastards. The king's plans of action for the current moment, and all the more so for the future, will be unknown, even to those who are called his closest counsellors. Only the king and the three who stood sponsor him will know what is coming. Only the king and the three who stood sponsor him will know what is coming. In the person of the king, with the unbending will as master of himself and of humanity, all will discern as it were fate, with its mysterious ways. None will know what the king wishes to attain by his dispositions, and therefore none will dare to stand across an unknown path. Thank God this only lasts 7.5 years. It is understood that the brain reservoir of the king must correspond in capacity to the plan of the government it has to contain. It is for this reason that he will ascend the throne, not otherwise than after examination of his mind by the aforesaid learned elders. That the people may know and love their king, it is indispensable for him to converse in the marketplaces with his people. This ensures the necessary clinching of the two forces, which are now divided one from the other by us by terror. This terror was indispensable for us till the time come for both these forces separately to fall under our influence. So they're using these terror organisations to separate the mob from the fruitcakes or fruit bats. The king of the Jews must not be at the mercy of his passions, and especially of sensuality. On no side of his character must he give brute instinct power over his mind. Sensuality, worse than all else, disorganises the capacities of the mind and clearness of views, distracting the thoughts to the worst and most brutal side of human activity. The prop of humanity in the person of the Supreme Lord of all the world, of the holy seed of David, must sacrifice to his people all personal inclinations. Our Supreme Lord must be of an exemplary irreproachability. And there We have it. Oh, I haven't added the link on that one. Right, well, I'll add the link to the I'll add all that underneath, because I put the wrong, oh God. Anyway, never mind, that's that. So that's that, thank goodness. So we've got that out, it's available, it's there to see, it's there for you to listen to if you're in your car at any time. You know, it is a plan, it's been a long-winded plan, and we are experienced to the end of that plan, coming together from it. And it's not good. And I'm sure you all agree with that. It's not nude. It's not good. Uni's been here since 29th of June. The channel in 5 years old. No posts and 18 followers. Unis have made no comments in the Wise Asylum. Your call. Well, I don't know. I mean, I've asked her to talk. She doesn't want to talk. She doesn't cause any damage, so I'm not really bothered. LFX says, EU nice. Eunice. Alright, good man. I've tried to encourage EU nice to chat. Well, she's not causing any problems, but I think it's a bot. Unisolve your data gathering bot, mate. Oh, okay, yeah, get rid of them, you. Get rid, matey. Sean's called boy, yeah, get rid. Got the 666 in the name. I mean, I trust you guys, you know what I mean? You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. I like to see Eunice in the chat, but if you ban, it's no skin off my back. Yeah, okay. Bed for me, says PY. Night, Paul. Going to bed myself, night, folks. Upward, yep, don't blame you. Could be the only true MP then. Trump, good thinking, LFX. I said to my Masonic friend who is fully trapped in and his brother left the visible due to said tap. Said the Hot Church. I've told him that he is being used and hadn't been given the heads up in 2020. No, it's true. They didn't. Moon meat on a bone, says LFX. You put up a link there. Support for our troops. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're all waking up, thank goodness. My neighbour is a Mason. Mason's joining his business. Yep, says John. Yeah. It's all adding up. It's LFX. This is what Lammy is doing, removing travel jury. Lamford. And there's nobody in judiciary standing up, is there? I mean, that's an bad indictment on people in there. They're pathetic. We will penetrate the cabinets of the world, says Mew. Pedram says, etymology of parent, derived from peri, to bring forth, give birth to. Entered English via Anglo-Norman French in the Middle Ages, replaced English term elder, ancestor, father, mother. Yep, that's quite right. Same went on in China, grassing up the parents. Did it work? Yeah, exactly. This is communism. Pedram says, Norway deteriorated since it undermined Parliament, abolished trial by jury in 2017. However, we the people have a natural law, common law, and I use my neighbourhood as a jury. Yeah. Good stuff. Good night. It's who is going to uphold the common law, Pedram. Well, this is not going to do, are they? But it is trust law that they're putting in, so this is where trust is more important. We ourselves to uphold common law. State does not. Crimes do not. I have a good result asking my neighbourhood as a jury. This is it. We need to come together as communities, really, and police our own areas. Which is, in fact, a lot of what Muslims do it, you know. Because where I was living before here, I were in a Muslim community, basically. And they were saying, we had a laugh. We were good lads. I knew most of them. They all spoke. They were all pleasant. You know, they wouldn't have to put political Islam in if all Muslims were like that. They wouldn't have to have created political Zionism if all Christians were like that. People really need to wake up. That's what they want you to look. Keep it there. And nobody's seen it. Right, chaps. 2:07. I'm going. I'm going. Thanks for joining, chaps. Thanks for taking part. Mods, thanks for modding, as usual. I hope you have a great week as we get closer to Christmas, which I do love. I do love Christmas. And I'm trying to find my outro, and I can't find it. I found it. Ha 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 ha. Have a good week, chaps. Thanks for joining. Till the next time.
electronic engineering, electronic engineering, electronic engineering.